This video is all about the unique features of the cervical spine. When we look at the cervical spine, that's what makes up the neck portion of our spine. You can see how with the curvature that we have a lordosis or a lordotic curve. There's 7 vertebrae in a row, so what we're going to do is I'm going to start taking it apart and we'll number them. There's C1 and C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, and C7. You can see there is some commonalities, but C1 and C2 are very unique. C1 has no body of the vertebrae and has no spinous processes. What we can also see with C1, it's like a ring, it's circular, and it's also known as the atlas because it rotates around the axis, which is C2. So C1 is also known as the atlas. When we observe C2, the axis, you can notice here that it's got this little pointy part, and that pointy part's known as the dens. So when the atlas sits on the axis, this is what gives us the ability to rotate our head. Now when we look at the cervical vertebrae, they all have 3 holes in them, or 3 foramen. The center foramen is the vertebral foramen. That's what's going to make up the spinal canal where the spinal cord lives. And then when we look at on the lateral aspects here, and that's known as the transverse foramen, they're really important because our vertebral arteries travel through the transverse foramen. And the vertebral artery is what ends up feeding the circle of Willis, which is in the center of our brain. What also makes the cervical spine so unique is that the spinous processes have these 2 little points on there, and it's known as bifurcated. So these are bifurcated spinous processes. Some people say they look a bit like a snake tongue. And when we look at the cervical spine, they're important because that's where the NUCAL ligament attaches to. So the cervical spine, what makes it unique is bifurcated spinous processes, 3 foramen, 1 for the spinal cord and 2 for the vertebral artery, and our C1, which is the atlas, and the C2, which is the axis. That's our review of the unique features of the cervical spine.